The night was drowning in rain when Arya Sterling's world finally snapped. She had spent the entire day surrounded by polished lies, poisoned smiles, and a betrayal so sharp it still echoed in her chest. Being a billionaire didn't protect her from heartbreak, it only made it quieter, more private, hidden behind tinted windows and expensive glass walls. She drove through the storm with trembling hands, her mind heavy and scattered, desperate to reach home before her emotions spilled out. But life rarely shows mercy at the moment you need it most. Without warning, her luxury car jerked, sputtered, and came to a dead, shuddering stop in the middle of a lonely stretch of highway. The sudden silence felt like a punch. Arya gritted her teeth and tried to restart the engine, but the only response was a hollow click that mocked her frustration. Rain crashed against the windshield, distorting her reflection into something broken. Someone she barely recognized. She stepped out of the car, instantly soaked as cold rain slapped her skin. Her heels sank into the muddy roadside while she opened the hood, staring at the engine like it was written in an alien language. She hated feeling helpless, hated it more than betrayal, more than loneliness, more than the crushing silence of the empty road. That was when she heard footsteps. Slow, heavy, too close for comfort. Her heart jumped into her throat as she turned, clutching her phone like a weapon. Out of the shadows, a figure emerged carrying a small metal toolbox, clothes drenched, hair dripping, posture tired, but steady. She froze, fear and caution warring inside her. Hey! The stranger called out, raising one hand to show he meant no harm. His voice was calm, deep, strangely comforting despite the darkness. Saw your hazard lights. Car trouble? She swallowed hard, studying him through the rain. He didn't look dangerous, more like someone worn down by life but still gentle underneath. My car stopped, she said quietly. It won't start again. He nodded as if that made perfect sense, walked toward the hood, and set his toolbox down. Mind if I take a look? I'm Ethan. I work at a garage nearby. Arya hesitated. Every instinct she'd learned from growing up wealthy screamed never trust a stranger on a dark road. But something about him, the sincerity in his eyes, the calmness in his voice, made her pause. She finally stepped back, giving him space. Rain dripped from his eyelashes as he worked, his hands moving with steady confidence. She watched him silently, struck by the contrast between their worlds, her drenched silk blouse and designer heels, his worn-out boots and patched jacket. After several minutes, he closed the hood and exhaled. Your battery's dead, he said gently. And the alternator's failing. This car isn't going anywhere tonight. Arya closed her eyes and pressed her fingers to her forehead. As if this day needed another disaster. Ethan glanced at the deserted highway, then back at her. Look, I know this looks bad. And I know I'm a stranger. But it's not safe for you to stand out here alone. My truck is parked up the road. I can tow your car or at least get you somewhere warm. She straightened her posture, trying to hold on to the last shred of control. I can call someone, she insisted. He just nodded, not arguing. Sure, try. She unlocked her phone with numb fingers. Battery, 1%. Her heart sank. For once in her life, money, connections, and power meant nothing. She looked at the faint glow of her dying phone until it disappeared completely, leaving her in darkness. Ethan spoke softly, without judgment. Come on, it's okay. Not everyone out here wants something from you. She let out a tired breath. Maybe I'm the one people should fear. Ethan smiled faintly. You, standing in puddles, shivering in the rain? Doesn't look very dangerous to me. The unexpected humor broke something inside her, pulling a small, involuntary laugh from her lips. It was the first real sound of relief she'd made all day. She finally nodded, defeated but strangely trusting. Okay. Lead the way. Ethan walked ahead carefully, guiding her through the muddy roadside. Arya followed, her heels slipping until she stumbled. Before she could fall, Ethan turned instantly and caught her by the arm. His grip was firm, warm despite the storm, and he held her as if she was something fragile. You okay? He asked. She nodded, breath trembling. Yeah, thank you. When they reached his truck, a small, old vehicle with peeling paint, Arya felt an unexpected wave of relief. Ethan wiped rain off the passenger seat before opening the door for her. It's not fancy, he said, but it's dry. She climbed in, hugging her arms around herself as the heater began blowing warm air. For the first time that night, she felt her muscles relax. Ethan buckled in and glanced at her. Where do you want me to take you? She stared out the fogged window, watching the storm blur the world outside. Anywhere but back to my life, she whispered. Ethan didn't push for explanations. He simply nodded and began driving, slow and steady. The warmth of the truck mixed with the gentle hum of the engine, and for the first time in hours, Arya didn't feel like she was drowning. After a quiet moment, Ethan spoke again, softer this time. You don't seem like someone who should be alone. She gave a humorless little smile. And you don't seem like someone who helps strangers without a reason. Ethan glanced at her with kind eyes. Not everything in life is a transaction. That simple sentence hit her like a shock, because in her world, everything was. Yet here he was, proving her wrong without asking for anything. The rain softened, and the silence between them grew warm, almost comforting. Arya didn't know it yet, but this stranger wasn't just giving her a tow. He wasn't just offering shelter from the storm. He was about to change everything. The storm finally eased into a cold drizzle by the time Ethan turned into a quiet driveway, lit by a single porch light. The house was small, old, and far from luxurious, yet something about it felt warm alive in a way Arya couldn't explain. When the truck stopped, she exhaled slowly, realizing only now how deeply she had been holding her breath. Ethan stepped out first, grabbing an umbrella from behind his seat before opening her door. "Come on," he said gently. "You're freezing." She followed him toward the porch, her wet hair sticking to her cheeks, her clothes still clinging to her skin. Ethan unlocked the door and a soft golden glow spilled from inside, a contrast so sharp to the night outside that her eyes stung with sudden warmth. Inside, the house smelled faintly of coffee and old books. A thin rug stretched across the wooden floor, the kind that held stories in every worn fiber. Ethan motioned toward the small couch. "Sit, I'll get you a towel." Arya lowered herself carefully, feeling oddly out of place among the simple furniture. She had spent her life surrounded by imported marble, silk curtains, and rooms so large they echoed. But here, in a tiny living room with mismatched lamps and a stack of tools on the table, she felt something she hadn't felt in years safe. Ethan returned with a towel and a steaming mug. "Herbal tea," he said, offering it to her. "Helps when you're cold." She accepted it with both hands, surprised at how comforting the warmth felt. "You really didn't have to do all this," she whispered. Ethan shrugged as if kindness was the easiest thing in the world. "My mom used to say we don't help people because they deserve it, we help because we can." The sentence lingered in the quiet room, heavier than he realized. Arya stared into her cup, her throat tightening. "I haven't heard words like that in a long time," she said softly. Ethan sat across from her, elbows on his knees, studying her carefully. Not with judgment, just concern. "You want to talk about it?" he asked. She almost said no. She almost hid behind the walls she always carried. But something inside her cracked open, and the truth spilled out before she could stop it. "I spent my whole life believing I could trust the people around me," she said, voice trembling. "But today I learned that the person I trusted most, someone I've known for years, was using me. Lying, manipulating, stealing from my company." I confronted him. He laughed in my face. Her hands shook, tea trembling with them. "I walked out before I broke down in front of everyone. I just needed to drive, to escape. And then, the car died. Like even fate wanted to stop me." Ethan listened without interrupting. When she finally lifted her eyes, expecting pity, she found something else steady understanding. "Pain hits everyone," he said quietly. "Doesn't matter if you're rich or broke. Betrayal feels the same." She felt her chest tighten. No one, not her board members, not her so-called friends, had spoken to her like that. With honesty. With humanity. They sat in silence for a moment, the kind that didn't feel uncomfortable. Then Ethan leaned back slightly. "Listen. You're welcome to stay here tonight. I'll sleep in the other room. It's not much, but at least the roof doesn't leak anymore." The attempt at humor pulled a small smile from her. "You fixed it?" Ethan chuckled. "That roof and I have a complicated relationship." Arya hesitated, but the exhaustion in her bones made the decision for her. "Thank you," she said once more, feeling like the words weren't enough. He nodded, stood, and disappeared into the hallway. When he returned, he carried a clean blanket. "You rest. I'll check your car in the morning." She wrapped the blanket around herself and leaned back, eyes heavy. Ethan dimmed the lights, and the room filled with a soft quiet that felt like a whispered lullaby. Hours passed. Rain tapped gently against the windows. Arya opened her eyes in the early morning light to find Ethan already outside, working on her car with focused determination. Something warm fluttered in her chest. No one, not even in her world of wealth, had shown her such simple, genuine care. She stepped outside, pulling the blanket around her shoulders. "You've been working since sunrise?" Ethan looked up, wiping grease from his hands. "Didn't want you stranded longer than necessary." She studied him, his sincerity, his kindness, his refusal to treat her like someone above or beneath him. And suddenly, she understood something life-changing. Sometimes the richest people are the ones who own the least. When he finished, he motioned for her to try the ignition. The engine roared back to life. She inhaled sharply, surprised and grateful. "You fixed it," she whispered. Ethan nodded. "She'll run fine until you get a proper replacement for the alternator." Arya stepped out of the car and faced him, emotion welling behind her eyes. Ethan, yesterday was the worst day of my life. But you changed it. You didn't know who I was. You didn't ask for anything. You didn't take advantage of my situation. Ethan shrugged lightly, though his eyes softened. Kindness isn't a business deal. She took a deep breath. Come with me, she said suddenly. Ethan blinked. What? I need someone in my life. In my company. Who's honest? Someone who sees people, not money. Ethan shook his head with a startled laugh. Arya, I'm a mechanic. I fix engines, not boardrooms. She stepped closer. Exactly. That's why I trust you. For a long moment, Ethan said nothing. Then a slow, genuine smile touched his lips. If you really want me there, I'll come. Not for the money. But because yesterday, you looked like someone who deserved a real friend. She felt tears rise, but for once, they weren't from pain. As they drove back toward the city, side by side, Arya realized something astonishing. The worst night of her life had led her to the best kind of miracle, a stranger who gave her more than a toe. He gave her honesty. He gave her humanity. And maybe, just maybe, a new bee.